welcome to the Crochet Show with your host, Nikki. I am so excited to be here. Today we're going to talk about how to crochet a tissue box cover. Literally anything you could think of, I'm trying to cover. So the very first thing I'm going to cover is why even make a tissue box cover for tissue boxes? Like, what's the deal? Like, we all have tissue boxes, right? Laying around. Why do I have to put something around it? It's not like a human being. Yes, that's correct. But nobody wants to see, at least I don't, and I hear a lot of other people say the same thing. They don't like seeing let's call it almost like a commercial in your living room. It doesn't look pretty. It doesn't fit into the theme of things, or it doesn't make you smile, or, you know, whatever your reasoning behind it is, that's the reason, right? A lot of people don't like looking at it, right? Because it's just too plain, or it doesn't look really good. Let's say you have a nice arrangement, a table or something, you have a lamp there, and you have a tissue box right next to it, right? Does it look nice? Probably not. But what if you put a beautiful cover with your color of choice that is already in your room, and you put that around it and make it just flare up or blend right in, right? And just that's pretty much the reasoning. So next thing, I'm going to hop right in and talk about the different types of tissue boxes. Okay. So that's kind of a question I get a lot, especially when I publish a brand new tissue box cover pattern. What about XYZ, right? In that case, there's two types. We have squares and we have rectangles. And a lot of you always ask me, why don't you make more rectangle ones? They will be coming. I just like to make a lot more of my square ones because I typically have those at home. And I like the idea of a square because you can make a lot of things with it, whether it's a head, a cute little body, etc. Sometimes that can be challenging for a rectangle, but there will be more rectangle patterns coming your way. But let me show you a rectangle one, okay? So a square one. Let's do a square one first. This will be a square one. Let me scooch over so you can see what I see right here. Okay, this will be a square one, right? So a bunny tissue box cover is a great example for a square one. You have the cover around it, you pull it from the top out, right? And the actual box is inserted from the bottom, right? So right where my hands are, that's where you insert it. And that's a square one, right? So I have a rectangle one. I have one rectangle pattern as of this video right here. And that is the crayon tissue box cover. That one's actually really fun one. It's ideal for like kids, for teachers, or if you simply are a crayon fan. So here is a crayon tissue box cover. Really, really fun. And yes, it uses a rectangle one. So that is two different types for tissue box covers. You have either a square or you have a rectangle. Well, we're not going to stop there because there's a lot more to talk about. So let's talk about the actual part that everyone is here for, right? How to crochet a tissue box cover. Well, there's many different versions of it, and it really doesn't matter actually whether you're doing a square or a rectangle. Either one of those types that I'm about to mention work for you, okay? So the very first one would be top down, okay? So top down meaning you go from the top, right where the tissue is being pulled out, and you work your way down, right? The very first one would be a snowman, right? So you can see from the snowman that I actually worked from the top down. The hat that you see on this head is made separate and then added onto it. But first I did the top part of it and then I worked my way down. Another example for that would be the gift tissue box cover, which I actually have right here as the actual example. So I worked from over here and I worked down. So top down, right? So top meaning where the tissue actually comes out, right? And you work your way down. Actually, if you really think about it, it could also mean this way, right? If you are pulling your, let's say it's an animal and you're pulling it out from the front or the back, right? This will be another way, right? Where you work from this side downwards. Either way works. But for most of the time, I think of as top down is this version right here, okay? So, and then there is bottom up. Okay, bottom up is the exact opposite, right? So a version of that would be this one, right? The gingerbread house is worked from the bottom up. That means I made first the actual house. So think of it as the walls. And then I worked my way up, and then I added the rooftop on top of it, right? So in this case, really, I worked my way from the bottom up, and everything else is kind of added after the fact, right? And then there is this one. This is the same idea. I worked from the bottom and I worked upwards until I reached the tippy top, which is where you pull it out. That's the pencil, right? The pencil tissue box cover. So, and then there is the flat version, okay? The flat version is where you first make it flat, either the entire thing flat, meaning all the way around, so meaning all the way around, right? And then you add the top on the top or whatever it is, right? You can either, as I said, you can even have it this way, right? Like this way, and then you add it this way. It doesn't matter. The point is that at first it's flat and then you sew it together, or another version would also be flat, would be piece by piece, right? So if you have 4 different pieces, plus the top, so 4 sides, and the top would be 5 pieces, right? If you have them all separately, that would also be flat and then sewing them together. For the bottom up and the top down, I typically don't sew. I do the entire thing at once. Unless for the gingerbread house, it was slightly different. I glued it onto it, right, for the stability wise. However, most of the time there is no sewing involved. So for this specific example, I have the elephant right here because I wanted more texture, which is why I did it that way. So for the elephant, which was, I believe it was actually my very first tissue box cover I ever made. So I had 4 pieces plus the top. And in this case, you can see that the tissues actually are coming from the trunk, therefore from the side. So yes, there's 5 pieces and then put together in the end. So that will be another version of a flat piece and then put it together. Now, that is 3 different types on how to do the tissue box cover, right? But here's the thing, a lot of you guys don't think about it because, well, actually some of you guys might be thinking about it, especially if you're not in the US. My patterns are based on the US tissue box covers, but a lot of you guys are asking me, well, I'm in Europe, I'm in Asia, I'm in wherever I am. I don't have these types of tissue boxes that you guys have, meaning mine, if I measure it, it's 4.5 times 4.5 times 5 inches. Don't know what that in centimeter is right now, but that's the size of the actual tissue box, right? So what if I have a pattern and then yours is, let's say 4 times 4 times 4, right? An actual square, or cube, I should say. Then how are you going to do it then that way? Well, in that case, you probably have to arrange the pattern accordingly so you have either less rows or less stitches. You can either literally make it by having a foundation row or round and then adjust accordingly by holding it around the tissue box cover, etc., right? It's easy most of the time to adjust it. So for example, if I take this pattern as an example, right, I made the top. This is a top-down version, right? So in this case, you just go as far as your tissue box cover is in measurement, right? So this is the top part right here. I don't know how much you can see because I have a lot of this white stuff around it, right? But the top part of it is a square, right? And the square you can make in as big or little as you like, right? It starts with a square opening and then works its way up. So meaning if you have a smaller box, you just stop early. If you have a larger box, you just go a little further. And these are for cubic ones specifically. I call them square ones because it has square sides, but it's a cube. You know what I mean, right? So in that case, you just go as far as you want. Now for the height, same idea. You just do less rounds all the way, right? So you might stop early or you might go further depending on how your size of your tissue box is, right? This is mainly based on the square ones or cubic ones, but the same idea applies for the rectangle ones, right? It's the exact same style. You just go as far as you can, further or shorter, and the same is for the height. Now, let's talk about how to actually make your tissue box cover unique. So, because that's actually a really, really interesting point, because here's the thing. You can make the tissue box covers any color you wish. but it may just look plain. So let's add something to it to make it fun. There's 5 different versions on how you can make your tissue box cover unique. So here we go. The first one is adding faces, right? You kind of have seen me do that in between here, but I'm going to show you a few other tissue box covers I still have. Here would be the panda. So you can see that I added a nose or mouth section. Let's call it a section or feature of the face, right? And of course the eyes and the ears, right? So I added the whole thing to make it look cute. Yes, I also added something in the back, but I kind of want to mention that a little later. So pretty much you add a face to your plain tissue box cover. So you can see I actually made a plain white tissue box cover, and then I added everything else after. Sewed it on, glued it on, whatever. Even added polyfill inside just to give it a little bit more dimension, right? So yes, simply add a face. So we already saw the elephant, same idea. You make the whole entire thing, in this case it's gray, right? You make the entire thing gray. And then I added ears and the trunk. Anyways, you add the nose to it, right? So in that case, and the eyes, of course, yeah. And then you have that facial expression done, and it makes it look like an elephant, right? You can also add limbs, right? Which is also a really, really fun one. So limbs would be, for example, this guy, right? We have the spider tissue box cover. Here's the thing on a spider. Yes, I didn't use crochet on this one, but there was a reason, because I wanted to be movable, right? How do you add limbs? You can add limbs any way you want, right? That means you can add crafting things like me. I used pipe cleaners, or you can crochet them, or in any kind of way. You can even add things that look like limbs, like you already had, right? Something from something else. Or you can simply add it like on the side. You add a little bit of some crochet part of it, and it doesn't even have to be 3D versions, right? But you simply add limbs, and that really doesn't matter for which animal it is. It can even be a human, and you add some arms or something, or even legs, right? And make it fun. The next one would be adding hair. Now, hair can also be for humans, for animals, whoever or whatever has hair, right? So in my example right here, I have the owl. It's only a tiny bit, and it's technically part of the ears, but it's kind of cute. And you simply use yarn and you sew it through, right? You can cut it, you can knot it up to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, tie it up like the way I did it to make it cute looking. But yes, you can add hair. It doesn't really matter. So we added face, we added hair, we added limbs. What else can we add? The next thing would be adding accessories. So what would that be, right? So accessories would be if it's either a human, an animal, or something completely different, or part of a human. In this case, Santa. So we can add a Santa belt around it. It's simply a red tissue box cover, like the entire thing is red, and then I added the Santa bell to it, which means a black belt and then a golden buckle. And I literally actually, I think I used hot glue. I gotta be honest with you. I used hot glue because I didn't want to sew it on. I didn't want it to be in an uneven line, and it is not something I'm going to wear. So I used hot glue, and I simply put it all the way around, right? Hot glued underneath pretty much. Added the golden buckle to it, and it's good to go. It looks like a Santa belt, right? For a tissue box cover. There you go. And it's ideal for the Christmas time, right? So you can add so many different things. If you make a face, right, you can add earrings to it, or whatever you consider accessories, a headband, whatever. There's a lot of different ways of how you can add accessories, whatever you consider an accessory. The other one would be adding other features. What are other features? Well, other features typically I consider anything that is non-livable, right? So most of the time at least. So we have the Rubik's Cube, which actually that is my very first one. This is a pattern from like 2016. So it's a quite old pattern. And my kids love the Rubik's Cube, and my brother loves the Rubik's Cube. So it kind of, I got kind of interested in making one like that, and I thought it was so cool, because here's the thing, you can't really arrange it, you know, it's a tissue box cover, but I added Velcro to it, so you can arrange the tiles in a way that it's similar to a Rubik's Cube, which is kind of fun. So I actually don't have this pattern, the original anymore. I gave it to my mom because she absolutely loves this idea. So there you go. You have different ways in making a tile, you know, different tiles around it to have a Rubik's Cube for a tissue box cover. How fun, right? So that would be another feature, adding something to it with Velcro. It doesn't have to be Velcro, but you know, that would be one of them. The next one would be the secret pumpkin tissue box cover. So what's special about this? Well, I considered it secret because I added this little top right there, which turned it into this guy right here, right? So actually, if you have that tissue box cover laying around, nobody would actually know there's a tissue box inside, because if you have the, let's call the lid on top of it, it just looks like a fun little pumpkin that you made, right? But if you take the lid off, you know, you can pull the tissues out. So it makes the pumpkin during the fall season kind of blend in, and you don't know that you have a tissue box over there, which is kind of fun, right? In my opinion, that's a really fun thing. So we talked about a lot of things. We talked about different types of tissue box covers, square / cubic, whatever you want to call it, and rectangle. I like to say square and rectangle, right? So that's 2 different types. And then, of course, different versions of how to make them. 3 different ways: top down, bottom up, and flat in pieces and then sewn together. And then, of course, adding all these accessories and all those things to it to make it come alive and make it unique and special. The face, the limbs, the accessories, and the hair, and then other features, whatever you consider other features, right? That's the idea on how to put together a tissue box cover. That's really everything. The entire thing combined, and I gave you beautiful examples on how to actually make this happen and for anything you wish. So you can see I have already so many patterns available to you to try out and make your own tissue box cover. But don't you worry, there's a lot more to come. My list for tissue box covers is huge, and I really want to work through all of them. There's so many requests I have already gotten. The top requests that I'm working on typically are from my membership. Those ones always go on the top, so anyone in my membership, those requests get put on the top, and everyone else kind of has to wait a little bit longer to get their requests done. Plus, the ones in my membership get all my patterns as a PDF in the vault all at once. Hundreds of them, including hundreds of video tutorials. Really cool. So that's different ways on how to make a tissue box cover. What do you want to see next time? What else should I be talking about? What else do you want me to teach you here on my page? Because I have so many ideas, but I also want to listen to you all. You can leave a comment down below. I might come back later to this and check it out. So be sure to share this with your friends if you want them to know how to make a tissue box cover. All right, I hope to see you guys next time. If you need the pattern for this or any other ones, head over to the link in the description or my website. Everything is listed right there, and you can always search anything on my website. There is a search bar. I hope to see you next time. Until then, bye.